most people when they're 21 literally are out drinking and having fun and going to parties, while this guy literally had $1 million in his bank account. And the craziest part is it's not that difficult to do. All you need to know is Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back for another exciting video. We have a very special guest, Dan DeSilva, the man himself. Some of you have probably heard about him. He has a very successful YouTube channel, Shopify stores, all types of e-commerce knowledge. He's also created some successful e-commerce apps and lots of different things. So today we're going to go through a step-by-step kind of tutorial about how Dan became a millionaire by the age of 21, which is crazy to me because when I was 21, I was still in college, wasting my time, wasting my life, and really having absolutely no idea what was going on. So Dan, welcome to the channel. Why don't you give the people who don't know you, if they don't, a little kind of like background. How did you actually get started? You know, what was your first kind of foray into entrepreneurship? And then we'll get into the step-by-step about how Dan was able to become a millionaire at such an early age.
Cool. So first off, thanks for having me on the channel.
Of course.
Second, how I got started. Okay, I'm gonna make this a very short story.
I know, it could be long.
I owed my parents a lot of money. Long story short is I owed my parents a lot of money for a lawyer because I got into a little bit of trouble, and I had to figure out a way to pay them back. Now here's the thing, I dropped out of high school. I didn't have any degrees, I didn't go to college, I literally didn't even have a high school diploma. So I needed to figure out a way to pay them back, and the only thing I knew how to do was navigate the internet at this time.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going and browsing a bunch of forums. I ended up on like Black Hat forums, on like Warrior forum at the time, just so many different forums, so many different blogs. And then I ended up finding multiple different ways that I can make money online. And then one way that really stood out to me was drop shipping. I was like, okay, it's a pretty interesting thing. And Ollie Group was like a new thing that came around, or it's probably been around, but to me it was a new thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up realizing that there was Alibaba and AliExpress, and one was for a lot of products, one was just for one-off products. And I was like, okay, wait a minute, if this product is 50 cents, there's people out there that want to buy the same exact product for like $10 or so. So I realized, holy cow, I can be the middleman. And at the same exact time I was learning about drop shipping, I was like, all right, how do I become the middleman? Because I realized that there was an opportunity for me to make a lot of money, but it was more so, how do I do it? So I dug deep into the forums again. I went onto YouTube, at this time there was so much limited knowledge. It's not like today where we're all creating like content to help a lot of people.
Were there YouTubers on Shopify?
There was like 2, and there was I think like 15 videos at max. And that's
so
also
where was the main place you were learning how to do stuff?
Like forums, forums, blogs, and more than anything was trial and error.
Yeah.
So I had to be in the trenches. But the other thing that I learned was Facebook ads. Here's the thing when I got involved with dropshipping is that Facebook ads was, I'm not gonna say brand new, but there wasn't like what, 6 million advertisers now. I think they were just nearing 2 million advertisers.
Right, so it's a lot newer.
So it was so much newer, and the advertisement space wasn't all being eaten up, so the costs were so low. I was getting like CPM so low, and the cost per sale was like $3-4 for sales of like $30-40. And I was just able to make so much money that way, where the first month my parents were like, are you doing what you did to get in trouble? So I'm like, no, I swear this is all legal. And they're like, okay,
that's
we'll
funny.
trust
I actually
you.
didn't know that it was because of you owed your parents money.
Yeah, that's literally it. It was just out of pure desperation.
Did you start initially on Shopify, or did you use some other stuff?
So I tried. Okay, so the very first thing, I've technically been in the market since I was 13 years old, and I used my parents' credit cards to buy like those crazy, just insane products that will always promise like $1 million overnight.
Right.
So I was always buying those products. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And then I realized something. I was like, okay, it's pretty interesting. The guys making all the money are the people selling the products too. So
the info products.
Right, the info products, which is something that we were talking about a lot.
Yeah.
And so I started learning. Here's the thing, I bought the products and I started learning. So I learned about like CPA marketing, which is cost per acquisition. And back then these big companies, like these survey companies were paying individuals, just regular individuals, like $3 to $4 for every email lead they got.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, I can just put up an ad on, whatever it is, like Facebook, for example, because they were super lenient back then. And I can just go ahead and pay like 20 cents a click. And if the conversion rate for like 40-50% on just an email opt-in, for every 100 clicks, the math always worked out that I was profitable.
Right.
I was like, okay, so that's how I started off. And then I realized it was very hard to scale. It was super, super hard to scale.
Super hard.
I was like, all right, and that's where dropshipping came in. And this was at like 15 years old when I figured out CPA marketing. And then I just left because the money wasn't like, wow, that's incredible money. And then 19 years old, 18, 19 years old is when I got into a lot of trouble, and that's when I learned about dropshipping and really went hardcore into it. I had a friend in Tampa, and he released like a course around dropshipping, and this was the same time I was learning.
Is that Devin?
Yeah, this is the same time I was learning about dropshipping too. And this other guy, Robert, he was doing crazy numbers with the same model that I was learning about. And it's just insane how it all happened at one time. It was like perfect timing where all this came out. And since I was great friends with Devin at the time, I got the course and I learned so much and then applied it. And then through all these years, just been perfecting what I know.
And there's a couple things that are important here, right? Like, first of all, what you said, that it was perfect timing. The only reason it was perfect timing, though, is because you were in it, right? You were in it, you were learning about it, you had friends doing it, you were doing it, right? Perfect timing only exists when you put yourself in a position to take advantage of it. So it's something that's very important when you're, if you're 13 years old, 15 years old, 17, 18, it doesn't matter. Like if you're young, if you're older, you have to be in the situation to take advantage of these perfect timings, right? And if you're not, there's no way you can possibly like win the, theoretical race. You have to be in the race to be able to place in the race.
Absolutely. If I wasn't actively looking for dropshipping, I would have never placed myself in those situations to be perfectly set up to learn. So you're absolutely right. It's all about the placement.
And another thing that's really important to talk about too is kind of perspective, right? If you didn't have friends who were making like $100,000 a month with dropshipping, you probably would have been happy with like $3,000, right? But when you meet these friends who are doing like these insane numbers, it changes your perspective on what you're capable of doing. Yeah. And then that's why it's so important. People always say that you're the summation of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Absolutely. And the reason for that is because if you're, making $100,000 a month on dropshipping and I'm making 2, then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I need to get 50 times better to like get on your level. But it's like if we're all making 2, you kind of get comfortable and settle for the way that things are. So another really important point, right? And we're gonna transition kind of into more of a step-by-step and the difference kind of between revenue and what you actually take home, because it's one of the most important things that I've kind of learned as an entrepreneur. So let's talk about the person selling the course when you first got introduced to that. Kind of like take us back, tell us how you first kind of got introduced to info products and selling them and the numbers and kind of the differential between that and operating, a more traditional business with costs and risk and all that stuff like dropshipping or any other type of business.
All right, you're gonna love this. So one of the very first courses that I purchased was from this guy named Adam Horowitz, and it was called Mobile Monopoly. Yeah. And it was a $47 course, but I was also on the affiliate list. And he would report to all of his affiliates how much money the course made. And when I was like purchasing the course as well, going through it, this is where I learned like CPA offers and whatnot. But I was also on the other side looking at how much money he made. And in a single day on a $47 product, he made $1 million. $1 million in a single day off of that product. Jeez. And I was like, wow. I'm like, all right. Even though I saw how much money he made, I still tried what he was selling. And it's not like it didn't work. It worked. It's just the $1 million looked a lot better. And because there's no overhead when it comes to info and whatnot, and his biggest expense was affiliates. So 50% was his, 50% was his affiliates. So in that first day, he netted $500,000. And I'm over here like doing $200-300 a day. I'm like, like, okay, this is interesting, which brings a great point. You mentioned profit versus revenue. Right. Now, there's something in the dropshipping space that a lot of people some people get it, okay, but others are very oblivious to it. It's when you see those Shopify screenshots or those WooCommerce screenshots.
In any space, like Amazon.
You're right, yeah. When you see those screenshots, you have to understand there's a big difference between how much cash is generated and how much cash the person behind the business actually takes and keeps in his pocket. Yeah. There's a huge, huge difference. So anybody can show $1 million screenshot, right? I can go out right now and spend $1 million on ads and have $1 million in my account. That means I make $0. So there's a huge misconception because people see big numbers that they think that's how much these people are keeping in their own pockets. Now, traditionally, if you're doing volume, let's just say like $2-3 million in a given month with the dropshipping model, traditionally you can expect anywhere from 10 to 12% roughly would be your profit margin after cost of goods sold and your ad spend as well. Right. And if you have other apps and whatnot and employees, so that's the average. Now, given you're playing the volume game at that point, but if you're looking at around $100,000 to $300,000 in revenue, you're looking at around 30-35% profit, which is, great. So, when it comes down to it, that's the question I always get asked so much is, what's the profit here? And I love answering that question because if you set yourself up correctly, your profit margin can be huge. And a lot of people don't focus on that. But I've noticed, because I also know about DCS, which is very, very important, I want to go ahead and say that, is that I learned the skill, right? I learned how to dropship and I perfected it, and then I decided to go on YouTube and be one of the first of 5 creators to ever make content around Shopify. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute, I can monetize my knowledge. So what I did was I created a course, and I also realized that the profit margin on the course literally was 100%.
Right.
All I had to do at this time, I was using Optimize Press, and I was hosting the videos, I think, on YouTube privately. And this was back 4 or 5 years ago, before I even knew about Vimeo or Wistia. Wistia, I think, was around then.
Yeah.
And I was hosting it on YouTube. It was private videos, and nobody was pirating anything back then, so it was okay to do that. And next thing I knew, I was just generating so many sales every single day. And then the progression of that was learning to create opt-in pages and learning to go ahead and put people into an email sequence and webinars and all that. I was like, holy cow, there's a lot of profit to be made here.
Right, there's no upfront costs, right? When he said no overhead, there's no upfront costs. Like with real estate, you have to buy the house and then you rent the house, and then there's all these costs. The market can go up or down. You have to pay construction, you have to pay a real estate agent, all of these different payments, right? That's taking money directly out of your pocket. When you're selling something that is information, right? You sitting in front of your laptop camera and pressing the record button, it costs you $0, right? You can also sell the course or whatever 1 billion times and it never runs out, right? It's not like general, it's not like, it's not like inventory or drop shipping or Amazon or all these other types of, brick and mortar traditional businesses. And so info products, the number one thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur is to look at what people are doing with their time, right? Like, what are the big guys doing? What is Dean Graziosi doing, right? He's a genius, but he's selling information because you can make it fast, you can distribute it infinitely, you can charge a lot for it if it's good knowledge, right? And you can scale with paid ads, with email, all of these different ways to just make astronomical amounts of money with very little risk.
Right.
That other traditional business models have. And so, what we want to talk about kind of in this final part of the video before we wrap up is your experience, kind of the differential between operating a traditional business versus selling knowledge on how to operate that traditional business. And one of the things that I'm going to preface this with is, I know there's going to inevitably be people saying, oh, well, Dan or Kevin, they're not even doing it anymore. They're just selling a course on it.
And I'm going to touch on that too. I have something really important to say about
which is completely, first of all, not true. But it's like this, right? Like in the financial markets, like if you're, hiring a stock investor, they're spending most of their time teaching people how to do stock investments, not actually trading the stocks themselves. So at some point, right, people have to decide whether or not they want to teach things or actively do it. It's just like a professor, right? Professors in college aren't going out and actively implementing all the things that they teach necessarily because they've done it, they've proven it, and now they're, they find fulfillment teaching other people how to follow in their footsteps, which leads to the most important thing, which is finding fulfillment, seeing other people succeed with the things that you create.
Yep. So again, back to what you were just saying before, the profit and revenue for dropshipping versus info products. Here's the thing. I made $1 million faster in dropshipping revenue-wise. I made $1 million profit in info faster than I did with dropshipping. Okay. Right. So I hope that makes sense a little bit. And here's one thing that you mentioned really quickly. Now, typically when I sell my programs, when I'll go out there and I don't have those $2-3 million months anymore. The reason being is not that I can't do it, the time dedication that it takes to do it is astronomical compared to the profit that I bring back compared to the information that I make. Or the profit that I make from the information. So here's what I realized, okay? There's people that go out there and only focus on dropshipping, like Richard, who we met at Funnel Hacker. Yeah. And he came to me, he was like, Dan, I started off with your videos and it helped me so much. And then he was talking about how much he made. It was $2.1 million in a month with 60% profit. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. But here's the thing, okay? Now I can easily get somebody to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in a month. Taking it to $1 million, $2 million, that's like a whole new level. That's a whole new ballpark. But at the end of the day, still really impressive that I'm able to take somebody from nothing to 500,000. A student, John, he went from 0 to 10 million in a year and a half, which is cool. But now with Richard, what I'm doing with Richard is he has the results, he has a lot more knowledge. I decided that I'm going to package up his knowledge and make that a next level type of course. Now that's all his knowledge, all I'm doing is selling his knowledge. Right. So we're creating a partnership here. So a lot of people, Kev, they think that they don't have enough knowledge or they don't have the knowledge to go out there and sell their product. What nobody realizes is that somebody does. And what they're really good at, like Richard's really good at dropshipping. He learned how to perfect that, right? He started off learning from somebody and then he perfected it. Now what I'm able to do is, and what he focuses on is that I can focus on selling it. exactly what he's doing, and that's where the partnership will really stem from.
Yeah, and you know, one of the cool things that Russell Brunson mentioned at the ClickFunnels event we were just at a few days ago was, you know, you can make an info product very quickly and pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like you can literally, it's all about curating information. You can transcribe podcasts,
Yep.
right? You can take books in the public domain and repackage it into like videos that can help people. You know, you can
Even in an interview like this, I've bought like bonuses, or I bought something and bonuses to that particular product was just a bunch of interviews, and they could have sold that standalone.
So go out and find people who are, you know, killing it in the dropshipping space or Amazon space or making money online in any situation, or go and interview real estate investors, right? And you can reach these people. It might not seem like you can, but you can. They all have social media. They have emails on their contact page, right? Be relentless. Go out and interview 3 people, package it into, you know, 3-hour-long interviews and sell it for $47. That is seriously so easy to do. And the biggest thing that I could possibly tell you guys is you get good at what you do. Whether you're working at McDonald's for 80 hours a week, you'll get really good at making hamburgers at McDonald's. Or if you're creating info products and learning email marketing and ManyChat and YouTube and all these ultra high value skills, you'll get good at doing that. And so thank you for coming on, Dan. We're gonna have a couple more videos where we're gonna feature Dan, talk more about, you know, what he is, you know, passionate about, talk about info products, talk about how to actually, you know, become a millionaire from scratch, because the internet has ultimately leveled the playing field in a way that's never really existed in history, right? People like Dan from their room or from their basement or wherever they are with a laptop can become a millionaire by age 21. That did not exist even just like a few decades ago. That was not possible to do. Even 1 decade ago, I don't know if that was possible, right? Previously, the only way to become a millionaire was with franchises or real estate or winning the lottery. Now,
or being born into it.
Or being born into money, right? But now the internet has leveled the playing field to be able to actually create these things completely from scratch. So if you guys are interested, check out in the description, we're gonna have a free resource about how to create your own info product. And if you guys wanna learn the 10 skills that millionaires need to master beyond this, then go ahead and check out this video right here where we're gonna be breaking down the 10 skills that millionaires master. And again, Dan, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you on the next one.
One of the many things that I've learned in my entrepreneurial journey is that anyone can become a millionaire if they dedicate themselves to learning the skills that millionaires master. I know a lot of people that work extremely hard for 30